And what if I told you there's a part of you that you don't know, but that makes decisions for you every day? A part that influences how you look, how you desire, how you stay silent, how you touch, and how you walk away without knowing why.
I'm not talking about something external. It's not a demon, not a trauma, not a sin. It's something deeper, more intimate, something you don't even dare to name. A shadow, your shadow, sexual. It's easy to live ignoring that it exists. You pretend everything is fine. You laugh naturally. You make love with learned technique. You behave as expected. And then you go to bed with a feeling that doesn't go away. Not dissatisfaction, but disconnection. Because in the deepest part of your mind, where no one enters, not even you, there's something screaming. A voice you've learned to silence. An impulse that doesn't align with the image you project. A desire that doesn't fit into your showcase morality. Have you never felt it? That fleeting, almost imperceptible moment when something inside you activates with a look, a word, an image. Something you then repress, as if it were a disease. And there you are, pretending it doesn't exist, pretending you have everything under control. But I have news for you. That part you deny doesn't disappear, it hides. And from the shadows, it begins to manipulate your life like a silent puppeteer. It decides for you. It makes you feel dirty, or cold, or disconnected. And worst of all, it does it without you realizing. Have you ever loved someone without being able to fully give yourself? Have you felt pleasure and guilt at the same time? Have you censored a fantasy because you were ashamed even to imagine it? Then you already know it. That is the sexual shadow. And it's more alive than ever. It's not just what you desire, it's what you hide. What you were taught was wrong. What they told you shouldn't feel. It's that part of you that was warped by religion, by the system, by the fear inherited from your parents. And you, without knowing it, have lived half your life at war with yourself. You've disguised it as self-control. You've called it maturity. You've confused it with morality. But it was repression, self-deception. And you know it. Because you feel it every time you close your eyes and fantasize about something you would never confess. Every time you feel desire and, immediately after, punish yourself for having felt it. Here's the secret no one tells you. What you deny dominates you, and what you integrate frees you. Your sexual shadow is not a threat. It's the part of you that's tired of being ignored. It doesn't want to destroy you. It wants you to look at it, to listen to it, to understand it. Because only then will you be able to truly love, truly feel, truly live. But of course, that's scary, because it means breaking with everything you thought you were. It means accepting that there is darkness in you. And that darkness is not bad. It's just part of your wholeness. It's raw, yes. It's primitive, sometimes uncomfortable, but it's also authentic. And if you don't dare to integrate it, you will pay dearly. In what way? In broken relationships, in anesthetized desire, in silent obsessions, in addictions disguised as hobbies, in a constant feeling of being disconnected from yourself, even when you're with someone else. The question is, how much longer are you going to keep running? How much longer will you keep pretending that you don't have a shadow? Until when will you let your sexuality be ruled by fear? Because while you play at being someone you're not, your shadow laughs in the dark, reminding you that you're not free. So listen carefully. This video is not a moral guide. It's not a sermon. It's not cheap provocation. It's an invitation to look where you never dared, to touch what you always avoided, to face that part of you that makes you uncomfortable, but also completes you. And when you do that, something inside you will change. You will feel it in your skin, in your voice, in your gaze, in the way you love. in the way you walk through the world. Because true transformation doesn't happen when you improve your image, or when you get more pleasure, or when you accumulate more conquests, or when you appear more confident. True transformation happens when you stop dividing yourself, when you stop hiding parts of you, when you dare to live with everything you are without apologizing for it. And that transformation starts here. With a single question. Are you willing to look at your shadow? Or will you keep living in the darkness, believing you are light? Have you ever stopped to think about why certain topics make you deeply uncomfortable? Why, when someone talks openly about their sexuality, you feel that little knot in your stomach, that mixture of discomfort, judgment, and curiosity? That reaction is a clue. It's your unconscious knocking on the door. Because what you repress does not extinguish. It projects onto others, into the movies you criticize, into the jokes you don't understand, into the people who provoke you and you don't know why, into the way you judge. What you don't accept in yourself, you attack in others. And that's more common than you think. Jung called it projection. When you can't deal with something inside you, you place it outside, so you can face it without assuming it belongs to you. That's how your sexual shadow begins to distort your reality. You see perversion where there is freedom. You see provocation where there is authenticity. You're offended by what, deep down, awakens you. You get angry at what you secretly desire. And there you are, trapped in a lie you yourself have built. Look around you. Observe how people behave on social media. The posts that bother them, the comments full of moralizing, the aggressive responses. All that is a mirror, a reflection of an unresolved internal battle. Repression not only isolates you from yourself, it also turns you into an executioner. Because when you can't accept yourself, you can't accept others either. And that has consequences. Very real ones, superficial relationships, forced intimacy, artificial passions, and a constant feeling of searching for something, without knowing what. Because when you live divided, no connection is enough. No body fills you. No experience satisfies you. You seek outside what can only be resolved inside. Here's where many fall. They believe the solution is to experience more, to cross boundaries, to seek more intense stimuli. But it's not a matter of intensity. It's a matter of awareness. You can have 1,000 encounters and still feel empty, because the shadow is not calmed by quantity. It is calmed by integration, by presence, by honesty. Current culture doesn't help. It bombards us with sexual images, but it doesn't teach us how to connect with our real desire. It gives us unlimited access to erotic content, but leaves us emotionally orphaned. It offers immediate pleasure, but steals depth. And the result? A generation saturated with stimuli, but emotionally starving. People who have seen everything, but have felt nothing. And here comes another silent enemy: bodily disconnection. How long has it been since you really felt inside your body? I'm not talking about getting aroused. I'm talking about inhabiting yourself, feeling alive in your skin, experiencing desire as a creative force, not as a burden, not using your body as a vehicle for others, but as a temple for yourself. But you can't connect with your body if you despise what you feel, if your first reaction to an impulse is to repress it, if you believe your desire is dirty. The sexual shadow is not only made up of what you desire, also of what you fear, of what you were taught should disgust you, of what you associated with danger, humiliation, loss of control. Those associations are engraved in your body, in your nervous system, in your emotional memory. That's why many people freeze right when they're about to feel, to enjoy, to surrender. Because deep down, something tells them that if they let go, they will get lost. And that is a lie inherited. Because you were taught that desiring is dangerous, that feeling is for the weak, that surrendering is losing control. But true power is there, in surrendering with awareness, in opening without fear, in feeling without shame. You can't love if you don't surrender. You can't surrender if you don't trust. And you can't trust if you haven't healed. The sexual shadow also relates to power. Not the power that oppresses, but the one that emanates from self-knowledge. Do you know what someone who has integrated their shadow transmits? Serenity, confidence, magnetism. They don't need to impose themselves. They don't need to prove anything. Their mere presence impacts. Because they have done the work that others keep postponing. Because they have visited their hells and returned with hands full of truth. And you? How much longer will you keep avoiding that journey? How many more excuses will you invent to not look inside? How many more times will you blame the world for a disconnection that starts in you? Because the sexual shadow doesn't disappear just because you don't name it. It grows stronger. It becomes subtler, more silent, and more destructive. You see it in jealousy, in possession, in emotional dependence, in lack of desire, in identity confusion, in the need for validation, in that inner voice that never lets you be at peace. All those are symptoms of an ignored shadow. And here's the most twisted part. The more you ignore it, the more you become like it. Because it dominates you. It turns you into a caricature of yourself. It pretends to be you, but it's not. It's a version contaminated by fear, guilt, repression. And you, who could live free, walk chained. You are not your impulses, but you are not your censorship either. You are what lies in between. Consciousness, the witness, the bridge, the alchemist, the one who can look at their desire without judging it, the one who can feel without shame, the one who can speak without hiding. And if you get there, if you really get there, everything changes. Not just your sexuality. Your vital energy changes, your creativity, your ability to connect with others, your strength to say no, and your humility to say yes. Because all that springs from the same root, an honest relationship with yourself. And do you know what's the most powerful? That no one can give you that. Neither a partner, nor a therapist, nor a guru. Only you, in the brutal intimacy of your solitude, in the silence of your nights, in the moment you decide to stop running. The sexual shadow is not an enemy. It's a map, a path toward your most radical authenticity. It doesn't ask for obedience. It asks for courage, the courage to stop pretending, to break your character, to allow yourself to be who you really are. And if you do that, you won't shine, you will burn. And that fire, yes, is yours. That fire, yes, that fire is yours. But no one prepared you to hold it. They taught you to extinguish it, to be afraid of burning, to build a fireproof life, to put dams where there should be rivers, to say you're fine when inside you scream, because fire makes you uncomfortable. It moves. It illuminates things you preferred not to see. And above all, it transforms. But for something to transform, it first has to burn. Do you know what burns first? The lie. The image you created to survive. That version of you that smiles when it wants to scream, that hugs when it wants to flee, that lets itself be touched without feeling anything at all. That domesticated version that meets expectations but not its truth. And here is the most painful paradox of all. You struggled to be accepted. And in the process, you stopped being you. The worst part of all this is that the sexual shadow doesn't just affect your intimate life. It affects how you are in the world. Your energy level, your ability to make decisions, your voice. Have you noticed how someone connected with their desire changes the way they speak? They don't need to shout. They don't need to seduce by force. They speak from a deep, almost animal place, and it shows. Because someone who has integrated their shadow doesn't need to disguise themselves. Sexual disconnection creates an echo in all areas of your life. Your creativity gets blocked. Your vision of the future clouds. Your body becomes armor. Your mind a battlefield. Because repression is a form of fragmentation, and no one can build anything solid from fragmentation. The strongest thing you can do is not control your desire, but understand it. The bravest thing is not repressing what you feel, but holding it without it destroying you. The deepest thing is not avoiding chaos, but learning to move within it. And here comes another great truth no one wants to see. Desire is not always literal. Sometimes what you sexualize is what you emotionally need. It's not sex you're looking for, it's presence. Not pleasure, connection, not intensity, truth. But since you don't know how to name it, you translate everything into fantasy, into body, into release. Because that's the only thing you've learned to handle. And that's where confusion is born. You don't know if you want to sleep with someone or to be held for hours. You don't know if you desire skin or refuge. You don't know if that fantasy is really yours or a way to escape what you feel. The sexual shadow also lives in contradictions. You get aroused by what you judge. You move away from what you desire. You get bored by what you say you love. Not because you're incoherent, but because you're divided. And no one can truly love if they are not whole. How many relationships have you lost for not knowing how to say what you wanted? How many times have you felt shame for your own body? How many times have you disguised yourself as what you thought the other expected? All that is shadow, too, and it's not just individual, it's collective. We live in a culture that eroticizes the superficial and silences the profound. That rewards image but punishes emotion. That talks about sex all the time, but never from the soul. A culture that has turned the body into currency and desire into a product. And you? Have you bought into that narrative without realizing? Have you lived your sexuality as an act of consumption? Have you confused validation with intimacy? Here's where the journey becomes even deeper, because integrating your sexual shadow is not just an act of mental health. It's a political act, spiritual, vital, because a person connected with their desire is uncontrollable. They don't let themselves be manipulated. They don't live to please. They don't surrender to the system, and that makes people uncomfortable. That's why repression has been a tool of power for centuries. It's no coincidence that the first thing controlled in a society is sexuality. Because when you cut desire, you cut vital force. But there's another side of this that almost no one talks about. The sexual shadow also includes your capacity for joy, your right to pleasure, your internal permission to feel alive. How long has it been since you enjoyed something without feeling guilty? How long has it been since you allowed yourself pleasure for pleasure's sake? Without thinking if you deserve it, without calculating consequences, without asking permission. Pleasure has also been criminalized, and you have internalized it. That's why many people can have sex but not pleasure, touch themselves but not feel, get aroused but not surrender. Surrender. What a powerful word. Not as defeat, as surrender, as an act of trust, as telling your body, it's okay to feel, as telling your soul, you are not broken, as telling your story, I'm no longer afraid to look at what happened. And yes, you may have wounds. Your shadow may be full of painful memories, confusing experiences, crossed boundaries, imposed silences, but even those wounds have something to say, not to keep you trapped in the past, but to reclaim your power. Because power is not in forgetting. It is in remembering without being destroyed. It is in re-signifying, in inhabiting your body again without fear, in recovering the voice you lost when they told you feeling was dangerous. And now I ask you, are you willing to take that journey, to enter your shadow without knowing what you'll find, to let go of everything you thought was right to discover what is real? Because the path isn't easy. There are no guides, no formulas, but there is one certainty. Once you walk it, you can't go back. Because you won't settle anymore. Because you won't pretend anymore. Because you won't live halfway anymore. And that, even if it costs you relationships, belonging, certainties, is worth it. Because you start living from a place where there is no shame, only truth. Where there is no guilt, only awareness. Where there is no mask, only presence. That is freedom. And there is no fire that burns stronger than the freedom to be yourself, fully, even with your shadow, especially with your shadow. And now that you've made it this far, tell me, do you still believe you can hide it forever? Are you still convinced that silence protects you? That pretending nothing's wrong will work forever? Because there's a truth you can no longer ignore. Everything you deny about yourself will end up speaking to you. And if you don't listen calmly, it will scream in chaos. What you don't release consciously will overflow unconsciously. And that is what will come if you do nothing. You'll see it in a meaningless breakup, in sudden apathy, in rage you won't know where it comes from, in a void no body can fill. You'll see it when your life seems to have everything you wanted, and yet you feel nothing, because the shadow does not forgive indifference. But here's the brutal truth. You're still in time. This is not a video to drown you in guilt. It's a call to wake up. Not to become someone else, but to return to yourself. To the real you. Without edits, without filters, without that recycled version you kept building to fit in. What's at stake is not your image, it's your soul. And when you understand that, when you stop fearing what you carry inside, you will know a freedom so pure, so powerful, that you won't be able to live any other way. And then yes, you will make love differently, not with more positions, but with more presence, not with more words, but with more shared silence, not seeking something, but giving everything. Because whoever has made peace with their shadow no longer begs for desire. They embody it, they transmit it, they sustain it. And this goes beyond sex. It's about being alive, about walking down the street feeling whole, about looking at others without fear of being seen, about speaking without internal censorship, about touching without emotional gloves, about stopping living as if you owed the world. Your sexual shadow is not a prison, it's a door, and you decide if you open it or keep chained by fear of what's on the other side. But listen carefully. What's on the other side is not darkness, it's intensity, it's fire. It's the power of someone who no longer owes anything or anyone. Someone who can look at themselves in the mirror without trembling. Someone who finally has come home. And if you've come this far, it's no coincidence. Your unconscious has already begun to move. Something inside you already knows this is the moment. So do it. Comment down below. My shadow also wants to speak. Write it as a declaration. Not for me, for you, so you see it, so the journey begins. Subscribe if you haven't yet, because you didn't come here to be entertained. You came to wake up. And that's exactly what we will keep doing, because this is not just another channel, it's a space for those tired of living halfway, for those who prefer the discomfort of truth over the false calm of ignorance. And now, I say goodbye with a question you won't be able to get out of your head tonight. What if everything that embarrasses you is exactly what would make you free? See you in the shadow.